Well, good evening and welcome to this Wednesday, May 19th edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston, and joining me is co-host Jason Juggling J. Ford. And we have a special guest this evening, Donna Reyna, the president of the Bermuda National Athletic Association. First of all, good evening to you both. Jay, we're delighted to have the president of the BNAA here. We just want to talk about kind of what's next for our athletes. Donna, thank you for taking this opportunity to come on and share with not only the athletes but the general public of what direction do we go in athletic-wise from this point here.
Well, Earl, hopefully we can get back to having our track meets, our local track meets. We also have the national championships. Hopefully we can get those underway. We have the World Under-20 Championships that are supposed to take place late August in Nairobi, Kenya. So we have a couple of athletes that we have put in. I just entered the preliminary entries for those athletes today. We do have the Olympics, on track. Hopefully, we have one or two of our athletes that reached the standard. I know Janai's had a great weekend. So we're hoping, the NCs, he'll be able to hit that qualifying mark. We still have Tyrone out there. We still have Dej. We still have, some of our other athletes out there that are trying to reach the standards. We have put together a proposal that we've sent to NACAC, and we're just waiting for a response to see if we can salvage something, because we have a lot of equipment, a lot of money spent, a lot of time spent, and even if we can have just something, again, that will benefit some of the athletes, so that they could at least have something to shoot for and have something to go towards. I know NACAC is putting on it's called a new invitational meet that's going to be held in Florida in June. This is for athletes trying to reach the qualifying standard for the Olympics. So we have that on track. So I think, around the globe, people are trying to salvage as much as they can, and, trying to still host these meets. We've heard Pan Am Juniors just got moved to December. We have several under-20 athletes, that would be eligible for those Pan Am Junior games. So, the season seems to be getting later and later, because of COVID. People are really trying to have these events. And so versus canceling, they're just trying to push the date out, so that these events can be held. So, our goal, Earl, is to keep these athletes interested in this sport. They can easily get up and say, well, they're still playing cricket or they're still playing football, so I'm going to move and go to, one of those other sports. So we're trying our best to keep these athletes interested in the sport of track and field.
Okay.
A few years back, we hosted one of those diamond events. What's the outlook coming with those diamond events in the future? Will we have a chance to host one again, or send some of our athletes to one?
Well, we have athletes that go to the Diamond League events. Tyrone goes to those events pretty much every year. Basically, you have to reach, a standard to be invited to those to some of those events. But as I said, NACAC is trying to put together their own circuit, and this will be the first of one, which is, as I said, the NACAC New Life Invitational, which is going to be held in Miramar, Florida. So they're trying to put on a circuit for our Caribbean athletes, so that they can get to compete. Yes, we did have, one of those, this permit meet we had in Bermuda a couple of years ago. I think we had 3. The first one was very well done, was excellent, was well supported. Second one was still pretty good. The third one, I think we got caught up with the America's Cup. So we didn't get the sponsorship that we looked for, and so on and so forth. So we had at that point in time put in the bid for Carifta. So we said, let's put all of our energy on Carifta, and maybe afterwards look at possibly, bringing back the permit meet.
You mentioned athletes, and you talked about the ones off the island, such as Janai. He had a remarkable meet. He was just off of the qualifying standard of I think it's 17.5. 17:14, right? And he was what, 16:58?
16:89.
89, okay. We also have youngsters such as Caitlin Bob, who's been impressive thus so far this season.
Yes.
We had the Tiara DeRosa. She picked up the SWAC title,
yes.
2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And we have Nathan Simons, who's doing extremely well with Indian Hills. So you know, it's things for our athletes to strive towards, and using some of them, how they're using school to actually get through what they've got to get through. What is the latest you've talked with Tyrone and his preparation? Because I've talked to him. He had a plan to go to a few meets. That kind of got pushed to the side for a little bit, and now he's just looking to see where he can go and try to qualify.
Yeah, I've worked with Tyrone. I've been working with Tyrone over the last I guess couple of weeks. We're trying to see if we can get him in a meet. The problem with Tyrone is that he didn't do an indoor season last year. I don't think anyone really competed very much. So to get into these meets, they look at your last marks, especially in long jump. And so I guess the unfortunate thing for him is because he don't have one that is around the area that they're looking for, it's getting more and more difficult to get into meets. As I said, him and I try to get him into 2 meets. I was able to reach out to the meet director, and it's kind of left up to them whether they allowing me. And I know the last one that they had, the first one that we tried to, I knew he didn't. And I knew there's another one coming up. So I haven't heard from him of whether he got into that meet or not. But right now, I mean, as I said, we have this invitational meet, which I hope he looks at. I sent the information to him. I'm probably going to reach back out to him and ask him, is he interested in going there? So as far as Tyrone's concerned, I'm trying to help as much as I can. I know he's looking as much as he can. The name of the game right now is points, because there's you have the ranking system with World Athletics. So that's even another way that the athletes could get to Carifta. Safex, and I'm just throwing this out there. Don't anybody quote me on this and say that this is the absolute truth. With Janai, say for example, he doesn't reach the 17-14, but he is ranked, say, in the top 25 or something like that. There is that possibility, because for the Olympics in track and field, it also goes by ranking as well as qualification. So it might end up that he is ranked in the top number. As you know, every event has a certain amount of athletes that it's allowing. So say for example, in triple jump, it may be 25 athletes. He may just be ranked 24th and being able to get that spot. So there's 2 ways for you to get into the Olympics. One is being ranked in the top whatever that event is, and the other one is once you hit the qualifying standard. But for an athlete, you want to hit that qualifying standard, because that means that you're in. You're not breaking the wrong. Exactly, because you could be ranked 24th the week before the the final entries, and then that week you have 3 or 4 people that jump way farther than you, and it knocks you out. So your best bet is try to hit that qualifying mark.
The good thing for Janai, Jay, is that he's training with someone who's already qualified at his school. Has met the standard. I think it was about 3 weeks ago, one of his teammates. So he's actually training day by day with this guy and the coach. So he's getting that challenge each and every day. That's something that Brian Wellman talks about all the time. He talks about when he was in school, they had 4 of the top 8 triple jumpers in the world at his school. So every day was competition in training.
Yeah. And the other thing with Janai too is that he is in constant contact with Brian. So Brian is kind of watching his competitions. The other thing we're possibly looking at, maybe even getting Brian up there, before around the time of, NC's Janai's preparation and stuff. So I mean, his being kind of given tips and coached by one of the best in the world. So he has that on his side as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard a similar story. We had Madeline Moore on a couple of weeks ago, and just, I hate to say this here, being off island is probably the best place for all these athletes right now because they're able to compete, especially competing with some of these athletes at the highest level. With our restrictions that we do have here, I mean, what do we say to these athletes? Do we try to say, hey, stay there, stay where you are, and we could probably get you to some more meets while you're there?
Well, I think, Jason, even before COVID, for any athlete in track and field, I mean, your best bet is to be, in Europe or be in the USA, because we don't have that level of competition. We don't have that amount of athletes, as Earl said, for them to be training with and competing with on a day-to-day basis. So I mean, even before COVID, I think as most of our athletes across the board, it's better to be overseas, like I say, either Europe, in the UK, or in USA, to get the competition that you need. You need that high level competition on a regular basis. And flying backwards and forwards from Bermuda to the US or Bermuda to the UK to try to compete, that kind of wears on your body after a while as well. So even before COVID, I would have said to the athletes, if you have the, chance to stay in the States and compete, because as you know, they have competitions every week, and those competitions are high level competitions. We may have national championships if we're able to, have funds or find sponsors to bring, athletes in for them to compete against. And, otherwise it's just a national championships, with mainly our younger athletes than our senior elite athletes.
Yeah. I remember even talking about the area permit meet, where you were able to bring in athletes to challenge our more senior athletes. And it's one of those things where it's probably a once a year opportunity for locals to actually see our more elite athletes actually compete on home soil. And of course, you were saying that you guys turned your attention to the Carifta because of that conflict with the America's Cup. That ended up being a big to do. But when we start looking at the fact that our future athletes are about to start training again, about to start getting back into competition, to keep them encouraged, what is your message as the president to those young people and their coaches? Because right now, probably all of them are feeling down and out right now.
Well, my message is the same as, World Athletics' message to the athletes is, this has been a tough period for everybody around the world, sports and everything around the world. But there are benefits. I mean, and I know there's scholarships out there for athletes. And I know some of the universities had tough seasons, had to shut down specific sports. But, my thing to them is don't give up. Don't give up. We're trying to do the best that we can. We're trying to make sure that they get as many opportunities as we can give them. So just stick with it. It's got to get better. As I said to you off air, things are got to start looking up at some point in time. We just can't keep going downhill. We're got to start going uphill very soon. So, I would say to the athletes, I would say to the coaches, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we just have to keep on striving. We have to keep on striving. We can't give up.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to have more with the president of the Bermuda National Athletic Association, Donna Reyna. We'll be right back.
Spring has sprung, and it's time for the Friends of Hospice Butterfly Blast annual raffle. The sun is shining, and it's starting to heat up out there. This $1,000 Bates gift card will ensure your beverages stay chilled and you can barbecue in style. The draw date is May 22nd for a $1,000 gift card at Bates. Check out our Facebook page, Friends of Hospice Bermuda, for details. Prize donated by Bates. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Welcome back, Jay.
Well, Prez, let's talk on a good note. Let's say something that came out of COVID. I think it's been positive, not only in your sport, but all sports, is the technology side of it, as having Zoom meetings and having meetings, virtual meetings. Once upon a time, you had to wait to get everybody come to an office or a meeting space, and somebody can't make it because a car broke down, and all these different things. But you've been able to have more meetings and probably more interactive with the athletes. Let's talk about some of the things that came good from the last year regarding COVID.
Well, regarding Zoom meetings, World Athletics, we've been having Zoom meetings. We probably have them like once every 3 weeks, where they keep us up to date on what's happening. They give us solutions to some of the things that are happening, keeping us up to date on COVID protocol and, so on and so forth. So we've been meeting probably once every 3 weeks. NACAC also has regular meetings. We have the council meeting, which I'm a part of because I head up the NACAC Gender Leadership Working Group. So we have those, and then we have meetings with the entire NACAC once every month. As far as our BINA meetings go, we have our BINA meetings on Zoom as well. What I've found, and I'll just use the NACAC Gender Leadership working group that we have. We've had several sessions since last year. We're getting ready to have another one on Saturday. And what we found, which is what you said, Jason, most of the time when we have those in person, each country would send, one person, one representative. So what we found, say for example, when we had our last gender leadership session, there were about 6 representatives from the US, whereas if it would have been in person, it would have been 1. So when we had our very first session, we had over 100 women that signed in to our working session. And that's continued onwards since we've had those sessions. So what I'm finding, and even in my work life, what I'm finding is, these Zoom sessions or the MS Team sessions, whichever sessions they're having, they're well attended. I mean, I remember even on my job, if I have a meeting, because with my job as project manager, I run, several projects. And before, you have people sitting in the office and say, oh, well, I got caught up in work, I just can't come to the meeting. Whereas now, I have about 100% attendance at every project meeting that I have. So, I found that we've been much more productive, even in our, World Athletics meetings, Zoom meetings, because again, I sit on the World Athletics, one of the development commissions, and, we have meetings once every month as well. And, people feel free to talk, because you're on Zoom and you're not in person. Sometimes people, kind of feel shy. They're standing in front of people. Whereas when you're on Zoom, people seem to be they want to be more open, want to put their position forward. So, I find that, we're getting very far. We're making a lot of decisions, we're moving forward with those decisions. So I don't think, us not being able to be together has hampered, our movement and our improvement in the sport.
Great news.
Yeah. Donna, you mentioned the Gender Equality Commission that you guys have been doing. How is that going? I know I've been reading up on a lot of the things that have come out of these things thus far, but from the inside, how are these things going? And do you think it's being accepted openly?
It's going great, Earl. We have had so many great results coming out of these meetings. We just had one of our females, who prior to this, she was I think she was the treasurer of her association. And, when we have these meetings, we talk more about, confidence, building confidence in yourself, not being afraid to step forward, the different things that you have to do, find male sponsors, get someone to mentor you and so on and so forth. So those are all the types of things that we talk about. So we just got word, I think it was last week, that she ran for president. She won president. And then she sent us an email and said she now has 3 females on her board as well. So we've had so many positive stories, and I just want to mention that, our group is called the gender leadership. So it's not just about females. So we have had some males as part of our gender leadership workshops. And what's interesting is one of the males that were on the workshop, at the workshop, he said to us, he sent in, his survey and his comments. And one of his comments were, I think this is good for males to be part of this because they can find out, what are the roadblocks that they're putting in the way for women to move, in different associations. I don't know whether you know, but World Athletics had its first female vice president voted in, in the last election. So I think these sessions that we're having are making women feel much more confident, about what they have to offer. And also kind of we help them put together a plan, okay, what is your 4-year plan? Where would you like to be? And, we are kind of mentoring several of the women because it's 3 of us on the working committee that are already presidents. And then we have one person that's general secretary. So, we have stories to tell. We also have experiences, in sports and for me out of sports, of, some of the challenges that we have had ourselves. So we're able to offer those experiences, but it's really been fantastic. And then, basically all of us are supporting each other. So if somebody steps up and said, I'm looking to be, the head technical officer, for my country. And we're all kind of supporting them and kind of saying, this is what you need to do, and I mean, it's just interesting. I also did, I was also nominated to be part of the World Athletics gender leadership. We had a session, a certification. So I just got certified with that. I think it was two weeks ago. Yeah, because it was right in the middle of when my parents passed. We had our last session, and so I'm now certified. I'm also certified as a facilitator for gender leadership as well. But just how we are supporting each other and seeing women put their names forward for these positions it's really been fantastic. And each time we go back to a session, we find some of the women that would never speak before are now quite ready to speak in front of a group because we do presentation skills and all of that. And it's been fantastic. And as I said, we have another session coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday, which I'll be one of the moderators for this session. So I really look forward to it. And as I said, with us having males as part of these workshops also, they also bring a different perspective and another perspective as well. Great.
Question, Jay?
Man, I don't want to put another thing on your plate because I'm so full right now.
Well, I'm getting ready to take one off my plate. But go ahead, Jason.
But I'm listening to you talking about this gender project or initiative. Now I'm thinking this could not only do great for track and field, but also our local sports fraternity.
Yep.
Our local females in the clubs and the organizations. Because obviously, we know what the figures are. We see it for ourselves. So I think something like that, I mean, they can learn probably a lot or be invited or something somehow to get this information. I think would be valuable.
But the interesting thing that I didn't say, Jason, is that I'm also chairperson of the Women in Sport for the Bermuda Olympic Association.
Thank you. All right, I feel better now.
Yeah, so we have sessions here. We've had Earl was at the last one that we had. We had a banquet where we had Hazel Clark and her sister-in-law spoke. We had the day prior to that where we had all of the different sports, showing their sporting and inviting women to join. And I know one of the sporting bodies that really was enhanced by this was archery. Archery signed up several women at when we had that weekend of sports. So yeah, and also I've attended some of the women in football. They've had a few sessions as well, and they've asked me to attend. But yeah, so I'm chairperson of the Women in Sport in Bermuda as well, Jason.
Plate's running over.
Well, it's running over and one's getting ready to go. One
You
is
keep
getting
saying
ready.
that. You keep
Yeah.
saying that like you want me to ask you, but we'll
I
talk
do
about
want
that later.
I do want you to. You could ask me. I told that on another talk show already. So you can ask
Okay.
me, Earl.
Which one are you ready to get to ready to let go?
I will be stepping down as president in September.
Okay.
There's your both, Earl. Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, being that you said that, let's talk about this journey that you've had. I mean, you took over in 2008.
No,
Nine.
this will be my 11th. This is my 11th year.
So you took over in 2009.
Yep.
2010.
Yep, 2010. Mm-hmm.
You've had you've hosted Carifta. You've seen area permit meets. You've seen athletes go to the Olympics. Take us through this journey. I mean, gosh, I mean, you probably can't even wrap it up in a 10-minute spiel, but yeah, let's try to do that.
Well, I think I'll be honest. When I first came in as president, one of my first goals was to get a I wouldn't say a better, but have a relationship with the media. That was my first, because I felt it was very important, for us as a sporting organization to kind of have a good relationship with the media. And I have to say that's going well. That is where I would like it to be and where I want it to be. Anytime I send you guys anything, you're there for me. Any article that has to be put in the media is out there, and so on and so forth. So, I think that's been good, because you have to make yourself accessible to the media, if you're a sporting organization. The other thing is the athletes. I think if I look at my career as president, we've had some successful athletes that have gone through this program. I mean, Tyrone and I pretty much have been together from start to possibly, when I finish, he'll probably be winding up as well. So I've seen his ups and downs. I've been there when he won the CAC gold. I was there, when he made the finals, in London. We've had, I've been there with Trey when Trey, went to the Olympics. With Aaron when Aaron Evans was running well. I mean, I could just list, the athletes. I've had so many athletes that's been in the program. While I was here, we've had a couple of successful Carifta games. We've been so excited. We exceeded our expectation where medals are concerned. We continue to have athletes gaining athletic scholarships. And that was one of my goals when I became president. Is I went through this system as an athlete. I was able to represent Bermuda internationally right up to the Pan Am Games, just missed out on qualifying for the Olympics. And I got an athletic scholarship, out of the sport. So my goal becoming president was to make sure that these athletes could get the same that I receive out of this sport. I think this is a wonderful sport. I am passionate about this sport. And that's why, even with me stepping down, I'm not looking at leaving the sport. And I've said whoever comes in as president, my thing is to work with them. I already have a great relationship with NACAC. I have a relationship with World Athletics. I have a relationship with the Bermuda Olympic Association. And all those areas I'm looking at staying. So I want to still be that intermediary between BNAA and all these associations as well. And also, I've gained a lot through these 10 to 11 years. So I want to pass that on to whoever comes in. I don't want to be a president, become president, and okay, I'm out of it, and now I'm just stepping away and leaving you to it, on your own. That's not, that's not the person that I am. I want to assist and make sure that, the sport stays going along the same path that it's going along, as it is now. I don't, I would hate to see it go on. And it wouldn't. And one of the other things was building a relationship with the road runners. And I think we've done that as well. They can call on me if there's anything that that they need, if they need me to come to an event, I even sometimes have these guys come out and assistant, as you know, and we have cross country, all of the clubs, they host a cross country event. So I think that was another plus, that my relationship with the road runners is great, with not with me, but with the BNAA. We've developed a great relationship, and I'm sure and remember, that relationship used to be very, very shaky. Yes. So I mean, there, as you said, there are so many pluses. My relationship that I have with President Coe is fantastic, and he's the one that's kind of encouraging me and assisting me in moving, into possibly the next round, which is, into World Athletics, which is, me getting into the development commissions and so on and so forth. And he told me, when I told him that I was going to be stepping down, he said, well, you could step down, but you wouldn't be stepping out of track and field. I said, no, this is my passion. This is my passion. So no, I wouldn't even think of leaving this sport. I love this sport. This sport has done so much for me, and I still think I have a lot to give back to it.
Well, in the short version, let me just say it's been a great ride with you as the president. For me, the relationship that we've had since you became the president, even before you became the president, but since you became the president, I've covered so much of track and field, and I don't think there's been any time where we have kind of butted heads in any way, shape, or form. Only because you're there to support the athletes. I'm there to support the sport. And I think that's the thing that when you first said to me, you want to build that relationship with the media, hey, that for me was the easy part. It was just making sure that the athletes got everything they needed as far as coverage. And I think together we've been able to manage that. And I want to say thank you very much for being the person you are. And hopefully, like you said, you working with whomever takes over the seat. Because we want to make sure that this run continues and the sport keeps improving over and over the next few years. So again, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to be back with more of the ISAT Sports Show. Actually, we're going to be evaluating the Premier's comments from last night's COVID press conference when we come back. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Take care.
For almost 150 years, John Barrett & Son have been the home of Bermuda's best beverages. And they are proud to offer us the sparkling portfolio of Sunkist sodas with their refreshing rainbow of fruit flavors. Sunkist has flavors that nostalgically remind us of the bottled soft drinks we used to call minerals. The colorful thirst quenchers that are perfect for a beautiful summer's day. This month we're featuring the original Sunkist Orange Soda and new Sunkist Zero. Orange soda with no sugar and no calories. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
Well, Jay, I'm pretty sure within the next 5 minutes her phone will be ringing from others to get a story about the fact that she has decided to step down as the president of the Bermuda National Athletic Association. And we want to wish her all the best, whatever she's going to do next. As she said, she's not moving away from the sport. It's one of those things that it's in her blood. She's been doing it for her entire life. So
yeah, on behalf of the fans, and I'm going to say behalf of the fans and athletes, Donna, we just wanted to say thank you. Countless hours, tireless hours. And a lot of times it's a thankless job, really, because
trust me.
Being the head of
what I do is thankless, mate.
But to put those hours in and to build those relationships, and like you said, that was one of our things, to build relationships to help our communication. You hear what's been happening as far as the progression of not just locally, but also internationally, not only on the track, but off the track. And the last part, Earl, I think really stood out for me, because we've seen many times when our president steps down, they walk away from the sport and there's no transition. So all that they might have done during their term, it just seems to erode until that person catches themselves and then just makes a new, wow, this sport will keep going and get better stride by stride, because, no pun intended, but because you still have somebody that you have that experience, so you don't have to go down that wrong road, or have that bad relationship. They can say, you know what, talk to this person or call this person, or we know how this business works.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just a phone call away to get the answer that you need.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Jay, last evening the Bermuda government held their regular COVID-19 press conference. I got a chance to speak with the premier as well as one of the medical people regarding the latest updates from what questions I would ask. So let's hear what they had to say. First, we'll hear the question, and then we'll hear the answer, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons of what came out of the first question. So, everyone, Premier, we talk about protecting the borders. Royal Caribbean will begin cruises out of Bermuda starting with vaccinated adult guests. As we have known, when vaccinated, one could still contract the virus and spread it as well. These cruises hold upward of 2,000 passengers and more than 700 crew. What contingency plans are in place for dealing with a major outbreak on one of these cruises, which could impact Bermuda?
Thank you, Don. The Ministry of Health went through an extensive exercise. Earl, my apologies. I'm so sorry. How you doing, Earl? The Ministry of Health went through an extensive exercise on this, and there's an extensive and long protocol of what is being laid out. But I think it's important for us to recognize that, guess what, Earl? I can win the lottery tomorrow, too. But just because I can win the lottery tomorrow doesn't mean that I will win the lottery tomorrow. And though it is true to say that an individual who is fully immunized can catch the COVID virus and may be able to spread it, there is a far, 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 far reduced possibility and chance of that happening. And we've seen that in effect in large scale in the United States and other places. So I think that what we're trying to make sure that we remind everyone is this is about the science, and we're dealing with it based upon the science and based upon the risk. And so I think it's important to note that our requirement for those cruises was 100% immunized passenger with the adult passengers, the people who are eligible for the vaccine. And we have robust systems in place to address that in case there's any challenge. But we are confident in what we've laid out. And I think it's important that instead of just repeating, oh, it's still possible to catch and transmit, as I said, it's possible to win the lottery. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It is far less likely with fully immunized persons, and we are seeing that. And I'm sure Dr. Miller could be able to speak to the technicalities of that more, because I think it's a very, very important distinction to make.
Will he add?
You may. Something?
Yes, certainly the risk of transmission is way low, very, very small in the immunized person as compared to others. The risk is not zero, but one of the things I've always said to people in life, that there are very few things where the risk is zero. We just have to look at a practical situation and then say, okay, where is it that there is that reasonable balance that will enable some?
Well, Jay, yeah, that was part of the first question and getting an answer. What's your immediate thoughts with the response?
You got half an answer, so I'll start there. Okay, so this is I'm playing devil's advocate because obviously we want to be optimistic. We want to be optimistic, and we hope it all goes well because financially the island could use it, our workers could use it. I mean, our industries could use it. We all know that. Mm-hmm. One of the part to that question was, what are we doing to safeguard if? Mm-hmm. And we're just saying we're going to listen to the science, and that doesn't do it for me, because what happens is that, I'm just for the sake of argument, if it does, then our workers who we put back to work, our communities who will be locked back down again, mm-hmm. and because there are going to be some close contact. Yeah, nice to say that they're going to be in a boat. Nice to say that if you do catch it, it would be somewhat of a less infection of sort. But I am thinking just minibus drivers. coming off the boat to go to the beach, because
Mhm.
one of the reasons they're going to come here is to get to one of our beaches, our beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
Our minibuses are not 6 feet apart inside.
They try to squeeze as many as they can in.
It's 10 to 13 maybe sometimes in these things, and or so even if you say, well, you skip every seat, you can get 5 or 6 of them in there. I mean, it's going to be some close quarters at certain times. I would say for anybody who's working in the industry, especially in the tourism industry, if you have underlying issues, really, really consider this situation. And I'm not telling nobody to go work or not to go work, but really, because I will believe your risk will be higher. And we have heard from the doctor, we have heard from the premier that there is a risk.
Mhm.
It's about striking the balance, as they say.
Mhm.
But if you have underlying issues, you're tilted. You're not on even keel. You're a bit tilted. I think that's something that should really be, if you have underlying issues, I think you should really think about your protection and then ask more questions.
Mhm.
Send questions to the premier, send questions to the CMO, send questions, because if you're going to be on the front line, I think you should have a better plan or in case something does happen.
And the other major thing is if there's an outbreak, and they're saying it'll be a low risk or whatever it would be, but it's always a fresh for everything. So they could be fully vaccinated. They could have somebody who contracts it, and then how do we manage that at our local hospital? Who we're constantly talking about. We need to ensure that we have enough of this, we have enough of that. They're overworked. How do we ensure? Because it's over 3,000 people, or even if it's over 2,000 people, right? That's an influx of people coming, and if there's an infection on the ship, which is contained on the ship, what do we do?
But I would be naive to think that even before Bermuda, the ship would definitely have a plan, because obviously the amounts of revenue they have lost in this last year, they themselves, I'm pretty sure, got strict protocols on the ship
Definitely.
itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they do not want to go through no legal lawsuits on top of the loss of revenue. You've heard some companies either close up or even just get smaller because of the fact.
Mhm.
So even without being involved in our government, it's got to. They have to, because they know the whole world's watching.
Yeah.
And saying, even though we're starting this week. Was this week? Go on, coming in this week.
No, end of next month.
Next one. Even though we're starting soon, is that Florida's right behind us.
Yeah.
Right
But everybody's telling everybody except us what their plan is. We're not telling everybody we're not telling our own people what our plan is if something takes place. What's the plan?
That question can be asked every press conference. I'm still asked, what's the plan when we get to 70%?
Well, yeah, that hasn't been answered either. Well, let's.
I'm not thinking it's still being formulated. How's that?
Oh, that's what it is? Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Let's go to the second question. Premier, what is what allowance has been given to the cruise lines in advance for them to make their plans, while some of Bermuda's major sporting events are not granted the same leniency?
I don't know about what you say with allowance, but we've been working with the cruise lines. The Ministry of Transport's been working with the cruise lines for a very long time. So I know there was a lot of planning that went through the Ministry of Health. And when these things were announced, I almost want to say in April, I think the discussions certainly started in January. But from a local sports perspective, those things continue to progress. And so I know that we're going to be holding events.
Well, Jay, I mean, okay, so the Ministry has been speaking with the cruise line for months. We've known that we're having our major sporting events for years. How and why are we taking care of everybody else first before we take care of ourselves?
Don, I mean Earl.
That's not a joke, brother. That's not a joke.
I mean Earl.
That was a get me last night.
I've been beating that drum for a while. Major events, sporting events, especially with millions, doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times for these events to come to our beautiful shores, concessions are made.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, most local organizations, doesn't feel that same energy when they're putting on a local event or a local championship or a local major event. They
Or
don't
they
feel
don't get that same respect.
I'm just saying the energy, because
Yeah.
and that would
There's a
entail,
respect, man. There's a respect there.
that would entail the energy, because it almost feel for some, and you've heard the frustrations. For
Mhm.
some, you have to wait for that event to finish, and then okay, you guys are afterthought. So what you guys were talking about the other day? What you need again? So like, hold up, huh? You know, and to hear some of these stories, unfortunately, we don't have all the information, so I don't want to go too far. But I know, concessions are made.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you hear people on the local tip and local organizations, it's not equal. That's go by that. It's not equal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's gonna be very interesting. You tapped on it a bit, and I think I said it to you off air a couple of days ago. How much do we actually value our local sports institutions compared to hosting an international event?
yeah, well, most of the people that are making the decisions clearly don't respect the local sporting event or the local sporting community, and only see what's on television and say, "Oh well, we could host them because they'll bring us money."
The mindset of hosting an international sport on our island, so our local athletes can see the professionals, can see the great ones up in front.
Mm.
To have to put that memory, even if it's a 3, 4-year-old, 5-year-old child, get to see the hero up close.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can use my example many years ago, and even bowling acts when they just have the pro-ams.
Mm-hmm.
But they had to have a pro-am, and you're bowling with your idol you see on TV every week,
Mm-hmm.
and you're bowling with him. You know, and then I mean, I'm pretty sure now it's easier because you can keep in contact with you on Twitter and on social media. But you couldn't back then. You had to pen pal and stuff like that, and letters and stuff or postcard. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Wait for the mailman to come up 2 weeks later.
But you as local, you will run to the monthly magazine, sports magazine in the shop to keep abreast of your athlete or your sport.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see, okay, look when the Manchester United and Lloyd's foreign teams came back here in the 80s. And I mean, how many fans do you think locally started liking those teams when they came here?
Yeah.
So
But that's my pet peeve when we start talking about international events that we host in Bermuda. I honestly believe we should only host events in which we can actually rub off and do. It makes no sense bringing, and I'm not, and trust me, I'm all for SailGP, but it's an elite person with money in sport. Where if we had a different, we have International Sail Week that nobody cares two hoots about, but you get more sailors for that week, right? that we get. Now because they bring in production crew and all that. They just start talking numbers. But how many times can we put our people in that boat?
Earl, I've said it to you off here. I think I said it to Donna off here also. And that's the conclusion I've come to in the last probably 3 months. There is a difference between the sport
Mm-hmm.
and the event.
Yeah.
And we see some administrators love the event
Mm-hmm.
than the actual sport. We see some people support the event
Mm-hmm.
more than the actual sport.
Yeah.
Athletes will rather you support the athlete
Mm-hmm.
sport so it can become a great event.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
If you don't have a local contingent of athletes, then it's going to be hard to get the, I hate to say it, fan base
Mm-hmm.
locally as the event. Now, the sports that you're talking about, Earl, they actually don't need no local fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Hate to tell you this here, sailing's free to watch.
True. No, if you wanted a good spot, you had to pay for it.
That's for all the other stuff that comes with that. The spot is actually free. You could have been Harbor Road, you could have been up 4th Star, and had a good old time.
Yeah, because everybody, I mean, when they had the event and we were still under that lock and key, some of those lock and key rules, everybody, all the officials, and I'm talking about the officials in Bermuda that were cutting down on people that were going in stores not on the birthday, on the last name date and all that. Hey, basically turn a blind eye that weekend, man. Free for all good. Just for now.
You know, I saw it. I tell you, I saw that happen maybe in Black Lives March.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very critical time, health-wise, in the island.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we turned a blind eye that weekend. But in saying, like I said, going back to what I believe, and I just think it's a consistent story going throughout the difference between sport and event.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some people look at who's bringing in the money.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's pay a bill. We'll be right back with more.
Spring has sprung, and it's time for the Friends of Hospice Butterfly Blast annual raffle. The butterflies are emerging bigger and better than before this year, and there's over $40,000 worth of prizes to make things more exciting. 3 Caterpillar raffles containing $1,000 gift certificates leading up to the main draw. There are multiple chances to win, so buy early and increase your odds of winning. So spring into action and get yours today. Check our Facebook page, Friends of Hospice Bermuda, for details, or call 232-0859. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
Well, let's go to question number 3. What is the delay in giving the green light for Bermuda's biggest sporting event, the annual Cup Match Classic?
I won't go so far as to say the delay. I would say that they were working through the specifics, but I want everyone to know, and I know that the clubs already know, and I know that everyone knows, because this was a question I was asked way back. We want Cup Match to happen, and we'll do everything that's possible. We rolled out technology today that will make it able for us to go ahead and verify. We're going to continue to do the work. And so I have no doubt that we will be able to issue the approvals that are in time that the St. George's Cricket Club has said that they need in order to plan an event. And so I am looking forward to it. And I want to continue the work on that avenue. As I said in my statement today, we are looking forward towards the future. And I think that it is important that we focus on the future. We have a tourism ministry that needs to get off the ground. We have local industry that needs to get off the ground. We have local event promoters, sports people who rely, local vendors, all those type of persons who rely on those type of activities. And we're going to make sure that we can do what's necessary for them to happen. It's going to require the cooperation of all of us.
Well, he mentioned that they will make the decision in enough time for St. George's, or the deadline that St. George's gave them to have the. But I'll go back to the previous question that they've been talking or giving them permission, because the cruise ships announced 3 months ago that they were coming. But we've just gotten permission to try this new app thing yesterday. So how does this work, Jay?
And the app might not be needed in the next phase.
Yeah.
That was said last night too. Well, up until last night, or up until the information last night, because I think now teams or clubs are allowed to actually train. We heard from the president, Arnold Mendes, BCB president, telling teams, I won't say telling teams, but put out a press release.
He didn't put out a press release.
Well, it was an
email to the clubs.
It was email to the clubs.
Yeah.
Email to the clubs. Advising them basically try to stick to the protocols that were under because of we want cricket to start. Basically, that's what it was. Without knowing what St. George's put in their proposals, I'm not privy to that information yet. I can only dream of what could be in there, but without knowing what the proposals was in, what's taking the time, and I think this would have been a priority.
Has it been given a priority?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. This would have been a priority from not day one, second one after last year's got canceled.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right? Whereas you should be just ready to press the button.
Mm-hmm.
All the documents would have been signed, the health. These are, let's take for instance, 3 or 4 scenarios. From 10,000 people a day, which we normally will have, to no fans.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
So when that time came, whatever stage we was in, according to our country status, we'll go with this scenario.
Right now, yeah.
If it changes, then we go with this scenario.
Start from the bottom.
Have St. George's been given that opportunity? Have St. George's heard back of their proposals? These are things I don't know. We haven't heard from St. George's regarding that. Obviously, they put something out. I saw in the Daily interview that they hadn't received information.
The same email sent to us.
Right. So I'm hoping they heard something by now because this is okay. Let's think about it, Earl. Let's just think about the business side. I'm not even talking about the game itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's $1 million event plus. Tell me what $1 million event you can pull off in two months.
Highly impossible, mate. And
we're talking about this is not. We don't have full-time workers on this event.
Yeah.
This is done by volunteers. This is done by people who are members of the club who have another job, who have a family.
Yeah.
Yes, they signed up for it, but at least they could stretch it out over a long period of time to get stuff done. I can't even imagine. Just think about meetings and all these type of things that you got to do off the field.
Yeah.
On the field, well, I've heard, obviously you're going to hear about training. You hear some players talking about, well, with no fans, I'm not going to play at all. I mean, you're going to get all those things. To be honest, Earl, I heard a lot of that last year before the season started.
Yeah.
I'll say this. You're not going to tell me a player who's probably set reserve twice will have the opportunity to play is going to say, oh, I'm not playing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Has the opportunity to put that name in the record books.
Even if it's just for 1 year.
And we've known some players who've only had a 1 year game.
Sure.
So I've always said, Earl, obviously, while I've been on air many times commentating the game is bigger than the athlete. This event is bigger, not only on the field, but off the field. Tradition.
Yeah.
Over 100 years. It's our oldest event.
Yeah.
That has to be. Last year was the first time.
Yeah.
So we've seen other major events around this world as we speak with no fans.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be played. But with the lack of, I want to say communication, because if we're coming down to, what, I'm not, this is 11 and a half hour.
No. We're 11:59 now, boys.
So
59 seconds.
that's the unfortunate part. But I'm staying optimistic because I do, as much as I had a lot of fun last year to all the Sleepy Hollow guys down there, I would love to be back down there this year. I won't cut Magic on. And I'm trying to do anything I can as far as obviously while the head with the Voice of Summer crew to support however we can. And I think that is not only, like I said, like and if we talk about just a feel good for the fans, for our people here who's had a rough 15 odd months. I'm ready.
I want to phrase a comment that the Premier constantly makes. The government didn't cancel football. The government didn't cancel.
But no, he was absolutely right.
Yeah, he's right.
But
the
restrictions that were put in place was almost impossible for something to go on.
Thank you very much. But see, at some point in time, you have to admit that some of the restrictions that you have in place have forced organizations to make the decision in which they've made. You cannot just keep saying, "Oh, they decided to do it. They decided to do it." No.
Question for you, because your ears are closer to the ground. Mine are big, but yours are closer.
I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Has one of these outbreaks that we've had contribute to a team or a sport?
No.
What?
And for those that will say, "Oh, what about Southampton Rangers?" That was a party after a match had ended 5 hours, 6 hours, something of that sort. It was just at the establishment at the same time, the same day that the football match was taking place. And of course, just like anybody that works for government that showed up at the party, not just footballers at the party, it wasn't football related. So let's take that right off the table and say what it is, because you even had people that work at a certain establishment at the party that had to close their establishment, and no one reported on that particular organization having to close their door for 2 weeks, and they put it on Facebook.
Your ears are good, I tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Let's go to the final question.
Okay, my final question. Is it possible for the Department of Youth and Sport to be given the authority to help sporting bodies get up and running, as it would appear that sports is continuously delayed in waiting for responses from national security?
I wouldn't go that far. I think that one of the things we're rolling out, which you'll hear more about going forward, are things with trusted establishments and others. But I think you would have heard me announce today that cricket, like I had said before, other sports will be able to advance. The Ministry of Youth, Culture and Sport is able to advance those persons utilizing the test regimes of which we already laid out. So cricket has been given the authorization to proceeding at training, because one thing that's essential, in order to have cup match, you have to have cricket. So we're making sure that we're doing everything that's possible so that we can enjoy.
I'm giving you just enough to start the regular season. Have I given you enough to play the biggest game of the year? Because it's not just the game on the field, it's all the other things, as you already stated, that goes with cup match.
So a few things that came out of that last question that came to mind last night. Prior to us opening back up the last time, we had a few documents prior to play. And we heard a good bit from the minister, our great Mr. Peace.
Yes.
and also the Department of Youth and Sport.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't heard from them lately
No.
regarding what stage are we in.
We're still building the stage.
Because I remember, if I want to say correctly, when do you actually play competitive?
Stage 4 for them.
Stage
Oh,
4.
certain. Remember, no. Okay. Stage 3, non-contact sports can play. Stage 4, contact sports can play. That's what it was before.
So what are we naming cricket?
Well, to be honest, I'm not even sure why they were told they couldn't train, because it was up to 10 people. Once we came out of that, you could mix household stuff, right? It was 10 persons, yes? Because you can go to a restaurant, sit at a table, 10 people, yes?
So that would have
So
been.
why couldn't 9 guys and a coach train?
So that would have been last week then. Last week.
That would have been last week.
Last
That's when
week.
the memo from Arnold went out to the clubs. So I saw it. But that was to the clubs, so I didn't do anything with it. But why would the memo come out from the president of the Bermuda Cricket Board when you can mix households that was authorized by the government of not to do so? I just couldn't understand it. Because in reality, if those guys were able to start training last week, right? And come June 6th, we could, or June 9th, whatever day it is, we could have possibly been playing cricket the following weekend. But I honestly feel that the sports, because you singled out cricket, and Bermuda has many sports, right? That we should be making sure that all their needs are taken care of. And that's why I made the suggestion that youth in sport, who are the people who govern the rules of sports in Bermuda, should be given that opportunity to have, and they already have that relationship. Why are we going through hoop, and things that left on people's desks that are not being attended to?
So what it sounds like to me, there's no accountability in this process. We have a middle person, per se, as you're saying, but I don't know. It will feel they're not. I don't know. I mean, we had Peter Dunn on last week,
right?
And he was. I don't know where we are, bro. We had the rugby on a couple of weeks prior to that. I don't know where we're at. Well, we know where we're at now, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's obviously, and we keep talking about it show after show. The goalposts keep moving, but when we hear about these, and I think this is what you were trying to get at earlier, when we have these international events, they have plan A, plan B, plan C. I'm pretty sure because that's been talked about and funded and invested months to years out. It doesn't seem that same energy is put towards local, because what is the plan?
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, Jay, when we were coming out the first time back in 2020, right? Every governing body had a plan for their sport. So each sport took that governing body's plan, broke it down, and presented it or handed it in to the government, to youth and sport, right? So there have been plans. The unfortunate thing is the people that are making the decisions are not looking at the plans in place, because you're going from one group to another group to another group and to another group. It's the same thing if I tell you something in your ear, by the time it got to the fifth person, the whole story was changed. And that's the problem. That's why I honestly feel if youth in sport are the people that run sports in the country, they should be given the permission by the government to ensure the contact and the everything that needs to go on for sports to return should be given to them. The same thing. You don't go to a doctor to ask him, what should I do at the bank? Because the profession is a doctor. So why are we going somewhere else to get information or get permission than the people that are running the sport have some idea of what that sport needs and wants and could possibly do? That's all I've got to say.
Now, my understanding, there was something of that in place the last time where a stage was aligned with a phase that we was in. So it was in phase 2, then this stage was with this or this, so that's why I keep asking what stage or what phase are we in? Because now we heard that the phase is different from the stage, and I'm not sure.
Because sports was in phases, government was in stages. That's how the last one came out.
Like I said, the communication could be a lot better.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, hopefully next week we can have the Minister of Youth and Sport on.
Come back to Zoom. Come back to no,
Huh?
I'll say, the Premier said, come back to Zoom. Hey, we'll have a comment.
Oh, well, I want to talk about sport in general because yes, we're talking about cup match. We're talking about, but we want to make sure that all sports is looked at equally and ensuring that they are treated the same way across the board to ensure that all of them can get up and running as quickly and as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's just think of, we could probably name more, 5, 6, 7 sports that, number one, got interrupted or didn't even get back up and going in the last year.
Yeah.
So development, youth programs, sponsorship. What do you do with the sponsorship?
Yeah.
If they're on a contract for sponsorship, i.e. a year or two, what do you do with that sponsorship?
Mm-hmm.
The lack of sponsorship that might come out of COVID, where companies are, and for me, that's where when you talk about going back to cup match again, or even just major events, it takes corporate sponsors, it takes sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what to do if we're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So I'm hoping and I'm praying that something can be agreed upon this week, not next week, this week, regarding not only, and I'm using cricket because that's a season that's about to come up, not only cup match, but we haven't heard anything about Eastern County, which is also rich in history.
Yeah.
100+ years, which was canceled last year.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll hear something, the presidents or the clubs or the minister, or feel free to please come in.
They have to wait. They have to wait because they're not a priority right now.
Well, I feel what's phase.
Not a priority, boss. You're not a priority.
Look, Earl, stay.
But look, get cracking. Well, yeah, next week, hopefully we'll have the minister on to clear up.
Yeah. And he did a great job the last time he came on.
He's always open to talk about what's going on and go more into detail, which I think a lot of people wait for a lot of times. So yeah, hopefully he's available next week, Wednesday, and we can chat a little more.
Can we also even get the BCB president on, please?
For what?
About to hear a plan?
A plan of what?
What the upcoming season could possibly be?
He won't know until they get permission to actually play. He just got permission to train.
I don't know. He might know more than that. That's what you gotta ask, bro.
Let's deal with the minister first. You gotta
ask the questions. They can tell us no. Well, we got no already, so But if we have,
I'm still waiting for a question to be answered from the cricket board, so I'm not sure if they're even responding to me. So, yeah,
they might not have the answer.
maybe, yeah. Well,
All right, good buddy.
yeah. Go take 2 chill pills, 2 Tylenol, and call it a night.
Have a sporty weekend.
Well, you as well. Have a good night.